Hello everyone, this is video 2 for Wednesday 5th of July, Shortcuts Records. This is the classic rock section and it is what it says in the tin. Alright, let's get into it. This one's been staring at me for a while. This is a massive record in all senses of the word. This is the Japanese first press of The Who's Quadrophenia. Complete with the inner notes. The Who, of course, their third rock opera. As Robert Christgau, the renowned critic, would say, the only one that actually was an opera. He was always interesting. This was a huge success. The Real Me, I think the lead-off single, the 5:15. This is the only Who record up until that time that had been completely written by Pete Townsend. And it's on the iconic, and I mean iconic, Black Track Records label. This album is hard to find, and it sounds brutish. It's just a huge sound. And part of the package, and part of the reason this thing weighs a ton, is this. The Quadrophenia book. It's 60-odd pages of images and evocative kind of themes. You can kind of, as you listen to the record, you can kind of hear some of these images being described. It's a really beautiful thing. So Japanese. And this is the Japanese first press. Usually costs prohibitive amounts of money, but not tonight because I got it. I found it at a really good price. So someone, I think, got a bargain with that one. I expect people might be surprised. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful record, impressive. It weighs about 1.5, 2 kilos. Couple of really cool guitar bands in tonight's list. What about this one? This is the Aussie first press of Budgie's third record. And arguably their best. Look at that. Roger Dean's artwork is amazing on this record. Never Turn Your Back on a Friend. Bookended by two of the greatest songs in Budgie lore. The first opening track being Bread Fan, which was covered by Metallica, 10 years, 15 years after this record was released in 1973. You can find good copies of this record, but more often than not, the vinyl or the sleeve is trashed. It is rare to find one where the vinyl and the sleeve are beautiful, as is the case here. Partly because, like all Australian records of that vintage, the sleeve material is it's not great, and so it's hard to keep it in good nick. You always get corner wear. 1973, Budgie, Wales' best ever band, I would suggest. Sorry, Manic Street Preachers, but I think that's true. All right, how about something a bit more prog? This is the Japanese first press of Gazeuse by Gong. Gazeuse meaning French for fizzy or effervescent. I do love the label that Gong were on. The Two Virgins label, look at that. Beautiful record. Instrumental prog dramatic, big, really one to crank on the system. And look at that sleeve, isn't it fabulous? Proper Prog, that one. About as far away from Prog as you can get are Toy Dolls, the underground, semi-legendary, if you're in that scene, Sunderland punk band. This is their 1986 effort, Idle Gossip. I'm a secret fan. I've got a few of their records. I keep plucking one or two off the shelves to share with you folks. Part of the appeal of Toy Dolls, apart from the kind of helium-voiced, completely mad vocals, sometimes the song titles are worth the price of entry alone. For obvious reasons, the final track on this record, I'll Get Even with Steven, is one that appeals to me. The, in parentheses, kind of second title is called Steve is Tender, and it starts out as a, as a punk version of Elvis's Love Me Tender before it changes and becomes something very different indeed. There's another album, another song title in here that I promise you is impossible to remember, which is why I'm going to have to try and see if I can find it in its full glory, or I'm going to embarrass myself by not being able to. It is if you're in a group, you're you know what? I'm going to give up on it. I'm going to have to save it as a surprise, because it's one of the longest song titles I've ever heard, and it's a really terrible pun, so I've probably saved you all from it. Anyway, Idle Gossip by Toy Dolls is a punk smile inducer. I can't believe this is so far down the list, but it is what it is, because we have a really nice 1976 repress of the legendary David Bowie. There he is, and he's in his Aladdin Sane phase. The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. The 1976 repress is really well regarded. I was around at a good friend and club member's house, Fergal, on, was it Friday evening? Yeah, Friday. And we were playing, and we often do kind of A/B tests. His system is incredible. He's got a clear audio, beautiful deck, and these Q acoustic speakers. I'm so jealous. It sounds incredible. But we will often do A/Bs on A/B testing on some presses we have of records we like. On Friday evening, it was the White Album, and we had Japanese press of the White Album, and the recent 45 RPM, the half-speed mastered White Album that was released a few years back. And the difference that we heard, the recent repress of the White Album was definitely bassier, definitely fuller, but at the expense of the instrumental separation and the absolute clarity of the sounds and the call and response of the instruments. And we both ended up kind of thinking that the new mix just wasn't quite the White Album. It was something different. I've heard some modern presses of Ziggy Stardust as well. It's one of my favorite albums. But I keep going back to these 70s Japanese presses because when you crank them up, the clarity of the guitar in particular, and when you're talking about Mick Ronson, that's a worthwhile thing to be able to hear in all its glory, is particularly when he's playing acoustic guitar, which he does quite a bit on that record. It's really nice to be able to hear it properly. That's the beauty of these Japanese pressings off the original tapes. Albeit, I've been reading recently that often in the mid-70s, the Japanese didn't have the original tapes. They would get a copy, but they made such a fuss on getting the stampers right. It kind of works for them. Now, there is no doubt in my mind that Howard Devoto of Magazine was a Bowie devotee. This is, I think it's 1981's Magic, Murder and the Weather. If you know Magazine, you know what you're going to get. Spiky, new wave guitar, offbeat lyrics, searing guitar solos. Yeah, really cool band. Yeah, I love them. They're really, really good. Now, I think from here on in, actually, I might pull out one or two others. There's another David Bowie. I'm going to pull this one out for a little bit of special attention. Because coming so far down the list, you might think it's undervalued. But it's not. This is a really special record. This is the Japanese first press of Neil Young's On the Beach. The third record in... was it the third or the second? Maybe this... You know what? I'm not sure. Maybe the second or third record in the Ditch trilogy. We had Time Fades Away and Tonight's the Night last week. Now we finished the set. This is On the Beach. Arguably the superior record of all three. And one that took decades to be repressed and re-released, but is now often considered Neil Young's greatest ever record. So why might that be? You kind of got the bouncing opening track of Walk On, but it doesn't take long before you're in real deep blues. And some of the greatest acoustic guitar rock ever recorded. It's a wild record because it's sad and in some respects difficult, but yet it's the one Neil Young record that me and my wife can both happily listen to over and over, where she's as happy as I am. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful album. And talking about beautiful records, there are some artists that I struggle to appreciate, but every so often there's a record in their back catalogue where I go, I get it. I am not, and I will never be, a massive Bruce Springsteen fan. But Nebraska is a really cool record. Atlantic City, I think, has to be. I think it's Taken Over from the River is my favourite Bruce Springsteen song. And this, I've had lots of feedback from folks about the quality of the Japanese first press, which this is. There's a few more Japanese first presses. We got David Bowie's Scary Monsters and Super Thieves, Ashes to Ashes, Dust to Dust. References to Major Tom et al. Scary Monsters is right up there in the Bowie canon, and that Japanese first press is stellar. Now this is Thin Lizzy's last record, and probably their heaviest, Thunder and Lightning, on the famed Vertigo label. Again, I've had feedback from a bunch of you out there that record sounds great. There's one other kind of really, I'm just going to put this out, like what a sleeve this is. Montrose, Jump On It, a hard rock record from the 70s. It really flies out the speakers on that pressing, and that one's going to be on pretty cheap money. Now let's just round this out. There's a couple of Creedence records, Cosmo's Factory, and my personal favourite Creedence record, Bayou Country, and that is a Japanese first press on the Liberty label of Bayou Country, and it sounds bloody great. It is my go-to version. We have Smiley Smile, the Beach Boys with Obi. An odd and rather lovely record. We got a record you might well have heard of. Revolver, the Beatles. This is one of the earlier presses of this record I've ever had. This is the 1969 repress. Yeah, very highly regarded. Punchy as, by the way. Having spun it recently. I'm going to save this one for last. We've got David Bowie's Tonight, the underrated Tonight. A lot of fun. Talking about fun, we've had this record recently. I've got another copy. I'm going to put it out there because everyone should have the Robot Wars. This is Queen's. Look at that. Amazing news of the world. The Japanese first press. And I'm going to finish off with a record that I love. This is the Japanese first press of Tom Waits' Small Change. The opening song being Tom Tribert's Blues. Shelley Main on drums on Small Change, which I think is part legendary. Shelley, it was part of the reason why that record has that kind of jazzy shuffle. But it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. And yeah, special record from a special artist. So there we have it. A bunch of really interesting records in the classic rock list tonight. As always, anything catch your eye, give me a shout. I can send you more pictures, I can give you more descriptions. The price list will go out 9 p.m. on Wednesday evening. Looking forward to hearing from you all. Hopefully something there caught your eye. If not, thank you for watching. If you like these videos, please comment and subscribe. Apparently it helps people find them, which would be good. Yeah. Lots of love, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye.